Hello everyone, welcome to today's story. What if the person you love proposes, but fear makes you turn away? And what if, after rejecting him, Tuna discovers a secret that could change everything? She is carrying Alex's child. Will this truth bring them closer or push them further apart? Can patience and sincerity overcome doubt, or will love slip away unfinished? Stay until the end to see how their fragile story unfolds. Don't forget to subscribe and help us reach 10,000 followers. The evening settled like a soft veil, heavy with anticipation. Alex stood before Tuna, his posture steady though his heartbeat betrayed him. In his hand, the ring caught the faint light, a fragile circle of metal carrying the weight of all the words he had never dared to speak aloud. When he finally let them spill into the quiet, his voice was calm yet quivering with honesty. He wasn't offering perfection, only himself, his future, and the unwavering promise of love. For a fleeting second, Tuna's world seemed to still. The proposal was everything she had once secretly longed for, yet in the same breath it felt unreachable. Her heart ached with the tenderness of his gesture, but the echo of her insecurities rose stronger than ever. She thought of her past, of the scars she carried, of the walls she had built. She felt unworthy, unfit to step into his world, unfit to share his name, unfit to hold his family's gaze. Her lips parted, but the words stumbled out like fragments of broken glass. I can't, she whispered, her voice unsteady, barely carried by the air. It was not a refusal of his love, but a surrender to her own fears. She dared not lift her eyes, afraid that the sincerity in his gaze might undo the fragile defenses she had clung to for so long. The silence afterward was immense, almost sacred. Alex did not protest. His chest tightened, but his spirit did not fracture. Instead, his eyes softened, carrying an unspoken vow. He would wait. He understood her hesitation, and beneath the silence lay a patience that was deeper than words. The moment did not end with despair, but with a pause, an unfinished sentence, a fragile hope lingering in the twilight. The night deepened after Alex's proposal was left unanswered, and the quiet within Tuna's heart grew heavier than the silence around her. She retreated into herself, into a space where doubts lingered like shadows clinging to the walls. Every word he had spoken replayed in her mind, his patience, his warmth, his certainty that love required no perfection. Yet none of it was enough to silence the voice that whispered she did not deserve him. When the house fell still, she found herself alone, trembling in the small refuge of her room. It was there, in the solitude, that another truth revealed itself. Subtle at first, then undeniable. The symptoms she had dismissed as exhaustion now formed a clearer pattern. With hesitant hands, she traced the curve of her stomach, and realization struck with the force of a storm. She was carrying Alex's child. Her knees weakened, and she sank to the edge of the bed, breath shallow. Fear surged, fear of how he might react, fear of what his family would think, fear of the world shifting beneath her feet. Yet beneath the panic flickered something gentler, something fragile. Hope. The child growing inside her was not only a secret but also a bond. One that tethered her to Alex in a way she could neither deny nor escape. Tears welled in her eyes, born not of sorrow alone, but of the overwhelming gravity of the moment. Could she keep this hidden? Should she confess? Was this discovery a burden? Or was it the quiet blessing she had been too afraid to believe she deserved? As the night stretched on, Tuna sat motionless, caught between terror and wonder. The refusal she had given him only hours ago now felt incomplete, overshadowed by a truth she could no longer ignore. The morning light filtered gently through the curtains, brushing the room in muted gold. Alex rose with a heaviness in his chest, yet it was not despair. Strangely, after the rejection, he felt lighter, as if the burden of unspoken love had finally been lifted from his shoulders. He had offered his heart, and though Tuna had not accepted, he no longer carried the suffocating silence of secrecy. What remained was patience, the quiet conviction that time could soften her fears. To ease the awkward air lingering between them, Alex stepped into the warmth of her home. There, he found her little boy playing with scattered toys across the floor. The child looked up, eyes bright with innocence, and Alex's heart softened instantly. He crouched beside him, tentative at first, but soon laughter spilled into the room as the boy welcomed him without hesitation. For Alex, this small moment was a revelation. Though not his son by blood, the bond arose effortlessly, as natural as breathing. He felt his chest swell with an unfamiliar tenderness, a protective affection he could not have anticipated. Watching the boy's tiny hands clutch in his own, Alex realized love was not confined to promises or rings. It was in these fleeting gestures, in the unguarded smiles of a child. He sighed deeply, the sound carrying relief rather than grief. Whatever the future held, he knew he wanted to be part of this fragile world, Tuna, her son, and now the quiet hope of something more. Even if she had not yet spoken her yes, Alex's resolve only deepened. He would wait, he told himself, until the day she no longer feared the love he offered so freely. When Tuna returned to the living room, her eyes fell upon the bouquet Alex had given her the day before. The flowers, still fresh and radiant, seemed to whisper of a tenderness she was too afraid to fully embrace. For the first time that day, her lips curved into a gentle smile. "Thank you," she murmured, her voice softer than the petals themselves. "They're very pretty." Alex's eyes warmed. "I'm glad you like them," he replied with a quiet certainty. "From now on, I'll give you flowers more often." The words were simple, but they carried a promise, a subtle reminder that affection need not come in grand gestures. It could live in the rhythm of everyday life. Something stirred within her. The heaviness in her chest lifted slightly, as though those few words had opened a small window to let the light in. Though her answer to his proposal remained uncertain, she felt the warmth of his sincerity brush against the walls she had built around her heart. "Are you staying for dinner?" she asked almost shyly. "I'm preparing the meal." He nodded, smiling. "Then I'll help cook." Her laugh slipped out, light and unguarded. "All right, go to the kitchen while I prepare the water for my son's bath." It was such an ordinary exchange, yet it held the weight of something extraordinary. For Alex, the moment felt like the turning of a page. Less tension, more ease. For Tuna, it was a tentative step toward trust. The air between them softened, carrying not the silence of rejection but the possibility of beginning anew. In their small, unremarkable gestures, a quiet intimacy bloomed, unspoken yet undeniable. The evening unfolded slowly, draped in the golden hush of lamplight. In the kitchen, Alex stood at the stove, carefully boiling vegetables as though each leaf carried a piece of his patience. Nearby, Tuna tended the frying pan, her hands steady as she turned the eggs until they glowed with a soft brown edge. They worked side by side, their silence not a barrier but a delicate thread binding them together. Every so often, their eyes met, his gaze brimming with quiet adoration, hers answering with hesitant but tender smiles. It was as if the world outside the walls had ceased to exist, leaving only the fragrance of food and the rhythm of two people learning to breathe in unison. The air filled with the mingling aromas of simple dishes, but beneath it lingered something richer, the fragrance of trust beginning to bloom. When the meal was ready, they carried the plates to the table, arranging them with unspoken care. Sitting across from one another, they did not merely eat. They shared a moment carved out of the ordinary yet luminous with meaning. Each bite was slow, almost reverent, as though they tasted not only the food, but also the closeness woven into its making. Between them stretched no need for grand declarations. The soft exchange of glances, the curve of a smile, the brief brush of a hand when reaching for a dish, these were enough to speak volumes. For Alex, it was proof that hope still lived. For Tuna, it was the realization that perhaps love did not demand perfection, but only presence. Under the gentle light, dinner became more than nourishment. It was a quiet symbol of the life they might one day build together, moment by fragile moment. As the warmth of dinner lingered, laughter drifted softly across the table, carrying away the last traces of unease. The flicker of lamplight painted their faces in shades of gold and shadow, and for a moment the room felt timeless, suspended between hesitation and hope. Alex watched Tuna carefully, noticing the way her smile faltered whenever silence settled, as though doubts crept back into her heart the instant words faded. He leaned forward slightly, his voice low but firm, steady like a vow whispered to the night. Tuna, I know what I did today may have felt sudden, but these feelings, they've lived inside me for so long. I couldn't keep them hidden anymore. His eyes did not waver, searching hers with patient intensity. Tuna's breath trembled. Her gaze lowered, then rose again, shining with uncertainty. I will think about it, she answered softly, her words fragile yet sincere. Relief washed across Alex's features. He smiled, gratitude clear in his expression. Thank you for not rejecting me outright, for giving this even a moment of thought. Her cheeks flushed, embarrassment mingled with something gentler. She wanted to confess the turmoil inside her, the fears of never being enough, but the words tangled in her throat. Alex seemed to sense it. His voice softened, yet carried the strength of conviction. You're afraid, he said quietly, that you'll never be enough for me or for my family. But you need to know this. You are kind, sincere, strong. You've faced struggles and built your life with your own hands. Those are the things I admire most about you. In the stillness, his words pressed into her heart, like a balm easing wounds she had long hidden. The room grew quiet after Alex's words, the kind of silence that carried weight rather than emptiness. Tuna sat still, her hands folded in her lap, her heart beating with a rhythm that felt both fragile and fierce. Every sentence he had spoken lingered inside her, echoing against years of doubt. For so long, she had convinced herself she was unworthy of such devotion. Yet, here he was, looking at her as though she was the only light he needed. Her lips trembled, but she found the courage to speak. "You're right," she admitted, her voice low yet steady. "I don't want to keep running from what I feel. Maybe I'm not ready to give you an answer right now, but I want to give us a chance. I want to give myself a chance too." Alex's smile broke across his face like dawn, luminous and unrestrained. "Thank you," he whispered, his relief woven with joy. "I'll wait for as long as it takes. I believe together we can build something beautiful." They returned to their meal, but it no longer felt like simple food. Every glance, every word now carried an unspoken promise. For the first time, Tuna allowed herself to imagine a future not clouded by fear, but lit by the possibility of belonging. Beneath the table, her hand instinctively rested on her stomach, where a secret already tied her fate to his. She did not reveal it yet, but in her heart she knew the child within her was no burden, but a quiet symbol of love's resilience. The night closed around them softly, and though uncertainty remained, hope had finally found its place at the table. Love, in its truest form, is never about perfection. It is not measured by flawless timing or by the absence of fear, but by the willingness to remain when hesitation arises, by the patience to wait when the answer is not yet spoken. Alex's steadfast heart revealed that love's greatest strength lies not in grand gestures, but in the quiet choice to stay, through silence, through doubt, through uncertainty. Tuna's journey reminds us that our deepest battles are often fought within ourselves. The walls of insecurity can seem insurmountable, whispering that we are not worthy of affection, that we are too flawed to be loved. And yet, the truth is gentler. Love finds beauty in imperfection, courage in vulnerability, and strength in the willingness to try again. The secret she carried, the child within her, was more than a turning point. It was a symbol of how life often plants hope in the very soil of fear. What feels like a burden may become the thread that binds two souls closer, teaching that love grows not in certainty but in trust. And so, their story leaves us with a whisper. Love is not about being enough. It is about daring to open your heart, even when you are afraid, and letting another's patience guide you home.
Alex đã dồn hết dũng khí để cầu hôn Tử Na, nhưng vì mặc cảm cô tự ti và từ chối, tin rằng mình không xứng đáng với anh. Thế nhưng ngay sau đó Tử Na phát hiện mình đã mang thai với Alex, một bí mật để khiến cho cô vừa hoang mang và hy vọng. Khi anh Alex vẫn kiên nhẫn chờ đợi và cách gần gũi con trai nhỏ của cô, chia sẻ những khoảnh khắc giản dị cũng như là nấu ăn cùng ăn tối giữa ánh đèn vàng. Những ánh mắt và nụ cười lặng lẽ trở thành lời tỏ tình không cần ngôn từ. Alex khẳng định tình yêu không cần sự hoàn hảo, mà chính sự chân thành để khiến Tử Na rung động, bắt đầu mở lòng cho cả hai một cơ hội.